My name is Philip Shaw, back here with Dr. Enamel Haq this week. I'm here from Dresden, Ontario. I'm talking to Enamel in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And this month we're going to talk about some of the problems that we're seeing in Central Asia or Western China. From a Western perspective, we look at the news every day and we see the problems, at least that we're getting on our news, about the Uyghur population, the Muslim Uyghur population in Western China. And there's a lot of conjecture on what's going on there. It's hard to know the truth, exactly what's going on there. We've seen news reports of Uyghurs being put into different camps, different re-education camps. It's just always hard to tell exactly what's going on, but Western nations, whether it's been the Biden administration or the Trudeau administration in Canada, they've all come out to condemn what they perceive as the Chinese are doing to the Uyghur minority in Western China. And so it's become, it's been difficult to know exactly what's going on. Of course, I'm not in Western China, and I was in Bangladesh last year, and I remember asking Dr. Enamel Haq how he felt about it and whether he had any friends there, and his perception of what's going on there. So I'll just throw it over to Dr. Haq right now, and he can chime in with regard to what he knows about the situation.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. This is an interesting discussion because I think it tells us that as we do our East and West, and we have perspective different in many cases, and this might be another one where I have been watching the same news that you watch, which is most of these Western news media. But I look at it with a different eye. My own feeling is that we should look at the news carefully before we analyze them. So, as you said, that last 2019 December, I was in Kunming, visiting a university in Kunming, and we were in a conference. So one of my good friends from Pakistan was trying to come to the conference, and he decided to fly to Kashgar, which is one of the northern from Pakistan, and through Kashgar to Kunming. Unfortunately, as he was flying from Pakistan, Islamabad to Kashgar, there was a snowstorm, very heavy snowstorm, and because of the snowstorm, his plane could not land. So his plane eventually flew to Urumqi, which is the capital of Uyghur. And he landed there, but the snowstorm continued, so he stayed there for 3 days. So after 3 days, he came to Kunming as we met. So we were very curious, just like you are, because we are all watching Western news on it. So I was curious about it. So I asked him that, what did you see? So his first reaction was very difficult to do anything without knowing Chinese. So he said, I learned few things, how to demand, how to bring, how to call for water. So I still remember that he was saying, these are the survival words. And then I asked him that, what did you see about, did you go out to the city? He said, yes, I could walk. There was no problem. And he said, I was very curious to find a mosque. So because he's from Pakistan and we are all university professor and we were all looking into the very similar news media. So he went to a mosque. He found a mosque. He went there, but he realized that it was not the prayer time and it was locked. But the lock is with a password. Obviously, there is a digital password lock. So he understood that without a digital password, you cannot enter. So either the imam might have a digital password or the local people. So he was talking to few people later on, and he understood that local people have the password. So he came back, and I asked him whether he went back to the prayer time. He said, no, because of all the news, I was not very sure about it, so I did not go. But his feeling was not much different than if you go to any other city. So that is the first impression that he gave. I'll give you one of my own impression. I was in Chengdu a year ago, 2017 or 18, I remember. And we went to Chengdu, and this was also Pakistanis were with us, so some Muslims, quite a lot of Muslims were there in this trip. So we said, we had hard time eating food. So we were looking for halal food. Some of the Pakistani friends, they were very interested in it. So they asked for halal food. And in Chengdu, they said, yes, we will go to a restaurant which provides halal food. So that surprised me because knowing China, we never thought that there will be halal food. So we went, they took us to this city and it was a Muslim restaurant. and the owner is a Muslim, and they are giving us halal food. So I was really surprised on that because the halal food was available.
Now, was the Muslim food, was it Uyghurs running that, or was it
No, it
local
was
Muslims, different
it was
ethnic?
it was in Chengdu, so it was not Uyghur. It's a different Chinese group, but
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
it's a different province. So, but the surprising thing was two things. First, that existence of a Muslim restaurant exclusively. That's something that tells me that if they were all hated and if the government does not allow them to survive, how could this restaurant survive? That was first thing. And there were more than one restaurant, Muslim restaurant in that. And then as we were walking on the streets, because it's also a tourist city, I saw a very interesting, is a old building, and it is written there in English. It is 1400, created in 1400 AD, which is long time ago. But on that, it is written, it is a mosque. It's converted into a museum, like many other old buildings, but it is also a mosque. So you could see from my, what I see there, I see that this is the way the media has been portraying. I'm not sure whether it is true and false. So I thought that I should do some research and look into this scenario from a political angle. And this is what I saw. Maybe I should show my screen to you for a minute. So if you look here, uh, what you see right there, this is the BRI, the Chinese Plan of Belt and Road Initiative. And what you see that how the connection is. So the connection is all the way from the Pacific port to Rotterdam, right here, through Moscow. This is the rail connection. So they have a rail connection goes from almost like from the one end to the Atlantic, this connectivity by road. There is a road by train, and there's a road connection, which is this yellow line, which goes through this and goes to Bishkek and eventually goes to Tehran, Istanbul, to Moscow, all the way coming to somewhere in here is just, I think it is Athens is right. So it's connected to this. So that's how the connection. And the third connection is interesting, is this is a oil pipeline, goes from Turkmenistan, the pipeline goes through Urumqi. So if I look into this and carefully analyze it, I can see that Urumqi becomes a political hotspot, and destabilizing the news and giving this information could be an interesting political game, just like what we have seen in many other games. So if you look into this, because this is the lifeline of Chinese economy. So I have, from my perspective, that I have a question mark. I'm not sure what is correct, but I have a question mark in my mind that there might be something that we should be careful before looking into that particular news. So that is how I see it.
I know that's something, I'm very aware of the Road and Belt Initiative from the Chinese, and I'm very interested in that geography, just like I'm interested in other geographies around the world. I've never ever looked at that as a real threat to the West, but of course I'm not Prime Minister of Canada or the President of the United States. But like you related it to, there's been oppression of Muslims in other places that doesn't hit the news at all.
Exactly.
And so you are comparing that with this, which is, it's on the news all the time in Western countries, especially the last few days.
Yeah, it is, as I said, it is similar to the news that we have seen during any other conflict. You remember the Iraq conflict, there were newses, and there some of the newses were not correct, but it was fed by the intelligence to create a hype to get to the intervention. Same news happened in Kuwait, if I remember the Kuwait-Iraq war. How US got involved in it, also based on a fake news. So the fake news story that is available in media is not something new to us. That's why we should be very careful about it. I'm not sure that which one is right and wrong, but I would always question these news stories because I can see a political side of it, a political economy side of it in terms of economy moving.
Yeah, well, it takes me back a long ways. I remember when I first went to Bangladesh in 1993, you would have about 5 newspapers on your desk in the morning, somewhere in English and somewhere in Bangla. And I said, why you buy so many? You said you're trying to find out the truth because you you just couldn't find out the truth. And I do an awful lot of work in agricultural markets, agricultural economics. China is a big buyer of agricultural products, whether it's in South America or North America. And of course, they ship all kinds of consumer products back. But there's a little bit of a chauvinism against China here, in that they always say here how much is believable coming from China with regard to grain statistics and other things. The point being, I always say that the view from Asia is different. And what I mean by that is when I'm in the streets of Bangladesh, I can feel the Chinese economy. I can feel the Indian economy. Over a period of 27 years, I've seen the particular Bangladeshi economy change over that period of time. So now that we're in 2021, I still say the same. I really don't know what's going on in Western China. I don't get to go to the mosque in Kashgar and places like that. But I always say, keep in mind that the view is different from Asia, and it's just hard to tell exactly what's going on. Sure, it doesn't look good all the time from what I see in Western news sources, but there's probably a lot more to this story that's going on. And when you relate it to Muslims being oppressed in other places, and you don't hear about that very much, and especially when you look at that map that you put up, you can see that there probably is a bunch of different games that are being played here. Hopefully the truth doesn't get lost in all that, and hopefully we find out more someday.
Yeah, thank you. I think, Phil, that is my point. My point is that we should be careful about interpreting the news. Think about all these initiatives happening. Chinese economy become a big economy. And the big economy requires a lot of resources. So its connectivity is important. That's how the BRI initiative has come. And the Chinese have been very careful to avoid Tibet. I'm giving you another political story. So once they were avoiding that, you can see the Western media story has moved out of Tibet and went to Uyghur. So I can see the connectivity and these. And that is something for people to watch and people to recognize. But that doesn't mean that there is not bad things happening in China. Similarly, there is not to believe that there is not bad things happening in United States either. So all countries, there are odds there. And I'm pretty sure this is true for every country. But we are trying to ensure that the news and the analysis remains neutral and not fed by someone's interest. I think that becomes an important issue for human society.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And I will be interested in hearing from some of your colleagues from the SAARC countries who might have friends that are there or have traveled there in the future. I'll be very interested to see what's happened, or what they say in the future. Maybe we can relate that back to another East-West, but no question, the view from Asia is different. And this particular issue is one that we don't know the truth, but it's something that's certainly dominating many Western newscasts. But you've got to keep in mind the different players that are involved with this. And I'm not talking about a conspiracy. It's just a big world. And sometimes the view from Asia is different than the view from this side of the world.
Exactly. Thank you, Phil. Thank you.
And thanks, Enamel.
Please subscribe to this channel to receive updates on new videos.